and then I will share my screen and I'll show you okay, where, okay. Okay, so this is East Tennessee Library. It's very pretty, and they have this great display of new books with great images and all the rest of it. So I tried to go on LibGuides and see if they had their page available to be copied, and they don't. So then I did a bunch of like inspect source and view page source, like this kind of stuff. And what I've gotten is this, which I think is kind of drilling down to like what's going on, where the code is. So I'm just gonna keep like playing with this until I figure out where they like how they did it. And I might I might end up needing to reach out, but you know, I'm getting there. They've got some code. Yeah, so they're definitely, I know that they're using a Google API to get the covers of the books. I have learned that much. But when you click on it, it is going to their Alma, their like Primo holdings. So like, yeah. But so that's what I'm working on. And but there were other things, there's a ton of code in this. It was all kinds of crazy stuff, but I'm trying to maybe just gonna keep trying stuff. Okay, so that is their actual homepage. That could be helpful. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Okay. Okay. Oh yeah, the expand my results filter and integrating results together. Amy, could you tell us a little bit more about that? I definitely heard some of the same stuff, but I didn't necessarily understand it because I don't have as good of familiarity with a single collection to be able to like place that in context.
Sure. Sorry, I'm working from home today and I'm having to work on my MacBook. I don't know if I'll be able to share much. So it was billed as a discussion on like equity in your catalog. And they didn't really get into that a whole lot other than to say that they met with somebody from Ex Libris to talk about how they could, you know, address equity issues in their Primo. And the result that came out of that discussion was this idea that they would turn off expand my results in their results list as a filter and just have all of the possible results in a results list, whether they're full text or not. And there were lots of reasons, and I can demonstrate on ours why, an example or a couple of examples. Let's see here. So when I tried this with a few different searches this morning, and it's always the same. Let's see here, English. So I think most of us have we renamed ours. I think normally it says, we renamed ours to be, what does it normally say? expand my results.
Expand my results.
And we didn't know that that was super helpful to students, so we renamed ours. But the idea is that when you turn this on, you get these results that are not full text showing up. However, if you go into it, if you have on paywall set up or like this one, there is a link there. And if you follow this link through, you can actually get to the full text, and you can get to it here. So we actually do have it available. Another example that I was going to show later was self-driving cars. Let me see my example here. Hold on. Oh, driverless cars. And then like I think I did peer reviewed. Like we have unpaywall set up. So those only show up here as well. Oh, this must not be the right one. Hold on. Try this one. Right. So the article is actually available. And so the only way that, I find through my experience that probably 80% of the time, these results that pop up that say no access, we actually do have access. And so they were finding the same thing. And so that's why they decided to just do away with that filter completely, and just have all of their results be mixed. And the reason that it's doing that is twofold, and I'll stop sharing. Look at my notes here. So the reason that it happens could be that there's just poor metadata on the ALMA side. And so the connection fails, and that's where a product like LibKey would help significantly. The other thing that might be happening is that collections are not properly activated for publishing in CDI. And so the presentation there were slides on things to check and go back and look at your collections to make sure that they're activated properly so that you are going to get the links. You'll get more links. I'm going to share a different screen. I'm going to show their slides here. Hold on. Got to get to his slides. Oh, sorry. I'm working on two different computers and I have things up in the wrong places. Sorry. That's kind of disjointed. I'm not going to show the slides. So there's like a checklist of things you can go through and check in your collections if you're going to leave that filter in place to try to move more of that content over. And then they also recommended that instead of changing the label for, unavailable, they changed that to say full text may be available, check for online, print, or request options. So they changed it to a positive message that still indicates, hey, click on us. Because you might have a lot of other options, including if there were no other options on the ILL form. So I found that presentation particularly helpful because that's one of our main complaints with our librarians is that we have so much content that is hidden behind that filter. And it's really difficult to, try to train the few students we do end up having contact with in classes to use what the filter means and how to use it. So those are discussions that I plan on having in our library about what to do with that filter and whether to leave it in place or not.
That sounds like it was a really cool presentation. I went to something, well, I guess it was Knowledge Days where they talked about getting rid of that filter or changing it to default to include everything and then allowing the toggle to narrow it to, only things, owned by my library or, included in my library.
Interesting. So kind of backward or flip.
Mhm.
I kind of
So-
like that. Is that like a customization you have to do on your own? That's not a built-in option.
I don't think it was very difficult. I can definitely go back and check my notes, and I really liked the idea of it having more available at first, but still being able to toggle it off. Because I think so often students do expect to see absolutely everything. But then if there's an easy way to make it less overwhelming, a toggle switch. Ooh,
Yeah,
discovery with
it might be a what's
search results.
how do things work where you are? Because what I'm hearing from the librarians here is students only want full text. Like if they have to wait more than 24 hours to get it, no. Because they're just so overwhelmed because they're working full time and they're going to school full time. So they're not even really working on their assignments until like the day before stuff is due.
I feel that.
Yeah, so we've got kind of like the opposite result of if it's not full text, folks don't want to know that it exists.
Okay, so the place to do the customization on that filter has to do with the central index options when you're in search profile configuration. And if that's something that we want to dive into, because it goes along with like blended results and CDI stuff, if someone else wants to present, I can get it up and ready to show in like 5 minutes.
Like, you mean just be in charge of the Zoom?
Just, yeah, if somebody else wants to like share what they've learned, then I'll find this central index filter by availability setting thing and be ready to share my screen.
Cool. I can talk, I guess. I think that, so I've been thinking about the expand my results, not necessarily as a related the conference, but we've turned it on like 6 months ago or something, at the request of the director. And we also had like a change, like a new person, not a new position, but a new person in our ILL position. And so I hear you, like, the students want immediate full text access. One thing that we also turned on in addition to the expand my results feature is the ability to initiate a borrowing request, an interlibrary loan request that auto-populates with the metadata from the article that has no unpaywall link or is not available. And that seems to mitigate the immediate, like, oh, I just want that, because they then can just submit the article request. It did mean that we had to change our workflow. Now, we don't use the whole resource sharing features of Alma, but we did have to change our workflow a little bit. But so far, we've gotten a lot of positive feedback, because even though they can't get the maybe the full text right away, but they found something of interest, then they're able to submit a pre-populated form, and that seems to cover the,
We have that form too. It's really, really cool. I love it. I guess I'm a little confused about are people, so doing away with that filter and having all the results in together, it actually allows, like I said, I would say 80% of ours actually do have a link to full text. So it actually would allow students to get to a full text article immediately without having to do an ILL. Although there will be, like there will be some articles that you don't have. And so then they would be faced with not being able to get it immediately or doing an ILL. So I feel like for us, we have so much content that is buried behind that filter that it could potentially be a huge benefit to students. We just would need to think about how we roll it out and what we say about it and what the label says, and then probably turn on that ILL form as an option under the view it section. I think there's a way to make the ILL form actually be in view it instead of get it.
Yeah, I think, we really only see use of that ILL form for things where unpaywall isn't covering it, because I agree, it's like 80%. With like our chemistry faculty is looking up some crazy stuff, or, engineering students who are doing community service learning, so that's like very, very specific and technical types of things, but
They did say that you need to prepare for your ILL requests to increase, and they are a university. Might not be as much, but they did say, it's something where you would need to talk to your person or people who do ILLs, because there is the potential to have more requests for the things that don't have a link. But it's also making things discoverable. So I don't know, I feel like there's a tension between not overwhelming the students with too much, but also letting them have the stuff instantly that they want to have right away. They started out the presentation with some statistics they did, and I saw another presentation that showed that students don't want to ask for help if they can avoid it at all. They really just want self-help. They want to find things and do things themselves if they can do it at all. So I'm a little torn, and I want to just keep having these discussions before we make a decision.
Okay, so I think this is the right place, and you'd probably want to test this either in the sandbox or in maybe one of your configuration views. But okay, so let me share. So configuration, discovery, search profiles, and then if you go to this central index one and you do edit, you've got this filter by availability, and then you can also do the edit full text search configuration. So like what it's including and what like toggling it's allowing. And so if you do this yes per end user selection, no per end user selection, it will it'll put and it may not be the same one that Amy, you were talking about with expand my results, but it puts like another toggle thing under, okay, Amanda, if you're here, I'm sorry, I'm gonna mess with Big Ben's just real quick. But I can turn it back off. So, okay, so it probably needed to like re-index or something. Anyway, there's supposed to be another thing under here, and
you may have to be signed in, I think. Or you may just need to open it up in a new browser window.
Yeah, we'll try.
Private browser window. But
Side note, Carly, you're not using Wade's old logins for our systems, right? Because I noticed the other day I still have Wade in my system. I can delete him.
Oh, if so, he may have had personal ones called Wade, but I am using ones called Whack to Click.
Okay,
So
I saw both of those. Okay.
Yeah, are all the Whack to Click. So okay, that's not my password, so that's not gonna work. JK. Okay, let's see. If it wants to do it, it may not even work. No, okay, hold on. No. Well, okay, sorry, that was rather failed. So I'm gonna put it back the way it is. And yeah, but there was something in here, and I just need to review the Knowledge J things. But yeah, they talked about like different ways to basically work with the CDI and the full text versus not full text and changing the default, and some secondary thing. And I think it also relates to, what Kirsty mentioned on Tuesday about, ebooks in CDI.
Yeah, that screen that you were on, that configuration screen, there's also that exclude CDI ebooks.
Mm-hmm.
And what was the deal? So if you check that box in a situation where you have a record coming from Alma, but there's also a record for the ebook in CDI, you won't get that duplication. You'll only see the ebook record that comes from Alma. But that like there's some other thing in there, and I'll have to check my notes. That also lets you keep, you can still search the full text of those ebooks, even though you've gotten rid of the duplicate title level records.
Yeah, it was something about indexing the full text, but not, yeah. Though I feel so bad because there was good information in the knowledge days for Primo, but the presenters were so scattered,
Yeah.
that it was, there were some that I was just like, this is a great idea, and I'm just gonna have to like look it up in a different way when I get back. Because then they talked a lot about creating local data scopes, which is a way that you can use multiple conditions, up to 3, to just like find print books on the shelf, to just find equipment. So you can create a search scope, which doesn't have to be included in your main catalog search box, but maybe you have a reserve equipment page and you want people to be able to search for what equipment is available. And you can create this custom local search scope that is just the equipment, and then they can plug in laptop or hotspot or cord or whatever. But again, it like the presentation itself was so goofy that I was like, yeah, not sure that I know how to do this, but at least now I understand that the possibility exists. So like you'd be here and you'd add a custom scope and you'd give it,
Riley, we've got some custom scopes if you want to log into
oh,
Seattle.
okay, cool. I'm just gonna not mess up Big Ben's then. Hold on. Nope.
As you know, the whole having 1 Alma and 3 Primos thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's search for. Yeah, so course reserves, so that here's a good example, I'm guessing, of like physical resources only. And you can use up to 3 conditions, and then you can do Boolean for or to expand and to limit. And you can see how they've, done that. And then, so like electronic resources for South Seattle. Only 1 condition, but and these don't have to show up on every single search thing, but it then So like now you've got all the different profiles, including the local only and the blended ones. And when you go to create a search box somewhere, you can add in the codes in the order that you want. And I have HTML to create those kinds of simple boxes in LibGuides, and it's HTML, so you can use it anywhere, where you can select which of those you want to use. And they're real easy to kind of just throw in wherever and test that way too. But anyway, anyone have anything else they want to show us? Just got real end of quarter energy. Ooh, I
I'm
did.
struggling today.
What?
I'm definitely struggling today.
Well, I was just gonna say that I was gonna share with everybody the change account type thing that I found for you. So somehow when Karen's account at Spokane got set up, she's an internal user but a public account type for her like general system admin. And we were like, seriously, you'd have to completely delete the account and recreate it to change it to staff. But it turns out there is actually a way to switch those. And so I found that, and I don't know if Melinda, you probably haven't even had time to see if it works.
I haven't even looked at it. It was just kind of like I came across it and remembered that it had existed. I'm like, oh my God, that is so weird. I don't know why. And then I can't change it, you know.
So yeah, so it uses a CSV file. So if if you're only needing to do one person's, obviously that's going to be a very short thing. And then it allows you to you like download a thing, get an API if you need help with the API. And then here's the code. And then we put in your API code and upload the CSV file, and it goes. So maybe I'll just do that for you, Melinda, and figure out how it works.
It might be helpful, especially since because of this, I went ahead and got an account in the developers network, and I don't have access to any of my API keys at the moment. So I'm going to have to request those somehow. So,
Oh,
yeah.
I'll go in and approve you.
Oh, that would be fabulous.
Yeah, so if anyone does request an account in Dev Network for your institution, Lindsay Leonard said you could email her directly and she would go in and approve it. I don't get a notification that someone has asked for an account, but if I log into your institution's Dev Network, I will see that there's a request, and I can approve it. So I'm also trying to figure out, does anyone know how to do this? And now it's not even Illuna at all. Does anyone know of a way to get email alerts on failed jobs? Like if your automate, like if the patron load fails, does anybody have an email alert set up?
No, but that would be really helpful because I've actually got, that's happened, obviously, it's happened several times over the last year or so. That would be really helpful if anybody is getting email alerts. I just get the email summary sent to me and I have to basically, when that, that comes in, it reminds me to go in and check the patron loads. Because
Yeah,
it'll tell me I have one error, but that one error could mean the entire file failed.
yeah. Well, and the other day, like right before Luna, Friday afternoon or something, midday, I discovered that Edmund's load had failed like 2 weeks earlier, but Nicole had been on, she'd been out on leave, and she's, the person who would normally be monitoring that. And so then on a Friday afternoon, we were like trying to figure out what happened and get it fixed. And I was like, yeah, like what happens like over the summer or over school breaks if people are off contract and you guys don't have backups? Like, I'm your backup. It'd be nice to get an alert. So, okay, I'm gonna look into that because that seems like a thing.
Carly, when I get my emails that says, my system notification and the job report,
Mhm.
it'll tell me how many have failed, like Melinda said. But then we can go back into Alma and look at the history of the job, and I think that's where it will tell you what happened. Let me get into that.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, y'all, I'm still half asleep. Monitor jobs, and then why is that pending? That's weird. Monitor jobs, and then you go into history, and then you can view. What is it? View hidden? No, I can't remember. But you can pull that information. It'll tell you which ones. I'm trying to find an example, but all of mine have been successful lately. So
yeah. Well, and I'll periodically spot check and like check, see if things loaded correctly, especially with schools that have been having issues.
you can also go into status. And you can, click on
You'd think
fail.
that
or
there'd be
put it in
some kind of API that could pull that information into an email.
There is.
No, I've said I would think there should be,
I would love it if that was the case. It would make my life easier.
right? Like if you could just get an email that says,
This
Instead
didn't
of-
go through.
yeah, instead of then logging into Alma and clicking 6 times and
Uh-huh.
yeah. Yeah. Well,
Well, let's see.
because I don't even know how to get like that job status email.
Yeah, the funny thing too is that, because we know we've missed a bunch. We know we've had a lot of unsuccessful jobs run or completely failed, but we can't identify them. The problem is, it looks to us, and Melinda and I were looking at it, I don't know, if weeks ago or whatever, we can only go back to 2 years. 2022.
Depends on the job, but yeah, like the ones we were looking
Yeah,
at clearing for
a year.
jobs, it was like 1 year.
Yeah,
Wow.
yep.
Hey, Carly, it looks like Carly may have instructions.
Ah,
That's funny.
that is Not an uncommon situation. Carly saves me quite a lot. What do they call it? Like,
So it's setting up email notifications for scheduled jobs.
Yep. Oh.
BOEM allows institutions to schedule many different kinds of import jobs, such as bibliographic record import profile, student information synchronization, VI invoice. It is possible to associate one or more library staff users to those jobs so that staff will receive notifications on the status of each scheduled run. And so you go into admin monitored jobs and you look in the scheduled tab.
Yeah.
And then when you find the scheduled job that you want, you click the button with the 3 dots and an email notifications will be one of the options that pop up. So if
well,
you-
and Melinda, did you say you get that one, but it just says like this, there was an error?
I get actually a summary of like the system summary that that gets sent out for all of the jobs and all of the pillars. So it's kind of like a system check summary that gets sent out. I want to say it's like every couple of weeks. It's funny, I don't get it very often. So it's like it's a weird.
You get a scheduled summary, Melinda?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can find one.
Oh, you do? Huh. I just get a summary every time I run a job.
it looks like there are options to send an email either when the job runs successfully or when some kind of error happens. Like, so you could pick either option.
I'm gonna
if you're
test-
manually running
Oh.
a job, I think you just automatically always get a notice.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna add myself as a subscriber to your user load, Kirsty, because that's where I'm at. And I'm just gonna say send on success and send on error to see what I get. And if it's the detail that I'm hoping for.
Hey.
And there,
Melinda? I just sent you, I just forwarded an email of a notification, the system notification that I withdrew items, I don't know.
Right. No, I got that. I get those too for anytime I run a job, a specific job, but I'm talking, I get like a systems report job that gets sent to me.
Huh. That would be helpful.
one of the things that does get kind of weird is, and I think this may happen with the patron load job, just because not all of the records loaded correctly doesn't mean the job, like, the job ran. So in Alma's mind, hey, it ran, it was successful. But, you know, maybe none of the records actually loaded. So in our minds, this is not a success, but in Alma's mind, it ran the job.
Mhm.
It's just that there was no valid data in the job to do anything with. So keep an eye out for that.
Okay, so I get a health check test, Carly. This is what I get. I'll show you. I'll share my screen real quick. And you can see what I have, what I get. And this is what it looks like. So basically it'll say, okay, system job notification, and it's a health check test. And it says it's completed with errors, and it says, okay, this is what in fulfillment, this is what's going on in acquisition, this is user management.
Melinda?
Yeah.
I want to look at something. Can you go to the top for acquisitions right there? Hang on one second. POL.
So health,
All right, disregard.
so a health check must be the job.
Yes, the health check is the job. That's what I was trying to figure out what the heck it's called, because it's not a single job, it's a summary. And so I'm getting like everything that may have failed, and then I have to go in. There's no link out, so I still have to go in and say, okay, this is what's going on, but this is the job that ran. I can go in and look at what happened.
How far back can you go on that, Melinda?
I don't know. I've never gone back because it's just a current, like, this is what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
So that's,
There should be a job history on it then, yes?
well, yeah, I could go in probably to, into monitor jobs and look at the history and see if there's a health check job. Well, I can run in there real quick and look.
You can.
Not seeing that as a single job.
Okay, fun story. Ever since I have not closed my tabs since we worked on your whole login issue. And now it keeps going to the SAML one. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
so I actually had to click out of that completely, and yeah, that was something that I had to deal with as well. Logged out and then completely closed the browser.
yeah, whoopsie. Other thing that Melinda and I figured out this week was that, and you know, maybe Wade did actually get you guys the information, but in Spokane's case, that final step had been missed. If the SAML integration profile has been set up for your staff and faculty, we can create a URL that your librarians or like work study students, if you have students that have CERC privileges, can use to log into Alma using their school SSO as opposed to an Alma username and password. And so like they're like, when I go into system, you know, like Alma's, I see the integration is there. And there seems to have been like a disconnect on like how we actually, you know, like create the ability to log into the back end of Alma with an SSO. And Melinda and I figured it out, and you just construct a different URL that basically takes the Alma login through the SAML proxy. So if you're curious whether that is a possibility for your institution and want to see if we can get it set up, yeah, Abby, I'll shoot you an email. I'll check it out. Julie, remind me of your institution.
Edmonds.
Okay, I'll take a look. Okay, so I got Watkins and Edmonds. And Edmonds, Claire and I just did the Google one, and she was working on testing that. So,
Oh, if that's if they got that working, then that's great.
yeah, like you might want to check in with her on that, and if she needs some help completing it, let me know. So Edmonds, because they're using Google, that we activated a social login integration process for them, and I just had to talk to IT, and it was about a 30-minute Zoom, so that we weren't sharing, you know, passwords and access codes via email. And we got that all set up, and then Claire was just going to do the like some testing, or she has to send invites. The final step on the social login integration is to send invites to those people that you want to give the opportunity to log in via their Gmail account or whatever it is you've set it up for. And she said the problem was that possibly the social invite letter had been reconfigured for some other kind of notification. And so she had to go fix the letter. But I can follow up with her on that, but it should be set up. You just need the invite, Julie.
Sounds great. I'll follow up with her. There's always something that comes up, right?
Yeah, well, and that was a while ago. So I followed up with her the week after and she was like, oh my gosh, all this crazy stuff happened. And I was like, no worries. Like this, but yeah, it was very close. Okay, the health check. Okay, so Melinda's shared the link to the health check thing. Yeah, I really feel like there's got to be a way to use some APIs to get more details on that stuff, but who knows?
I'm sure there's a lot of ways we could be using APIs, but I'm about to just dive into the world of APIs here. So it's not something I've done before.
Yeah, well, and I noticed after we had the spine labels discussion, I went to activate cloud apps at some institution I went into, and I went into the dev network and I activated the cloud app and I went back into the Alma environment and it was not activated. And I kind of was like, nope, I'm at capacity. This was not an actual request from this institution. I just wanted to like figure out what it looked like. So I backburnered it. But the cloud apps guy from Ex Libris was like, that's a problem and that's my problem. So I'll be in touch. And now it's been a week, so I'm gonna be in touch with him. Because if, cloud apps is where a lot of the cool API stuff is happening, because the bigger consortium and the bigger libraries are making their own apps using APIs. So getting that activated at all the institutions so you can take advantage of some of that stuff and not have to write code would probably be helpful. Other announcement, and I'll send this out. It hasn't actually begun yet, but the Bellevue sandbox is the first sandbox that is getting refreshed because it has that production CDI code in it. So I wanted it cleared out. So that should kick off here in the next couple days, and support indicated that it could be unavailable for up to 30 days. So I will keep 2 sandboxes available at all times. So only once Bellevue is refreshed will I do the next one. Hopefully it goes faster than 30 days. And if you need sandbox access in the new refreshed environments, I will send out that account request form link to the Alma listserv. And if you've got circ managers or someone else at your institution who would also need access, please forward that along to them. So we'll start to get those set up. Lindsay said at Eluna that she was able to get the sandbox CDI keys for us because 2 of the 3 sandboxes didn't even have CDI keys, and Bellevue's was a production one, but that's not right anyway. So that'll start to get cleaned up, and then you'll get assigned to your sandbox when it's refreshed. And if you're desperate to use a sandbox and your sandbox isn't refreshed yet, then I'll set up on whichever one's available. But hopefully by end of summer they will all be refreshed and ready to go. So yeah, so that was good. It was kind of I don't know if cute is the right word, but I kind of giggled because the person at support came back and was like, oh, Do you just want the fiscal year information refreshed? We've found some institutions just need that, and that way you can keep your configurations and blah, blah, blah. And so I'm gonna be like, no, please, nuke and pave, nuke and pave. Like, did you not look at our history? Like, it's literally never been refreshed. Yeah, so Olympic has had the 2 login links. Great. So they have their SAML integration working, and I always found that it was easier to just use the SAML link, because if then you don't have to worry about your Alma password and forgetting it.
Yeah, the only time we use the internal login is if the SAML system goes
Down.
down.
Yeah.
So we do have, like, I have a Circulation Desk student internal account, and you can toggle. So all of ours are external accounts. And then when that happens, I go in with my login and I toggle all those employees to internal, and then they can use their internal logins. And most of the time they've forgotten their password. So then I have to send out their password, but you can toggle them back and forth. So, but yeah, we just use the SAML link. It's just way easier, and it usually just already does it. It recognizes you from having logged into your computer anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So
It
you don't
seems
have
like there's a safety element that would come with that as well. You know, you can expire the role when it's work study, for example, if you have it attached to their public account. Let's say they decide not to work for us anymore, but they're still a student. You don't have to go in and remember to delete them from the internal account and have a separate account for them. You just delete, their role expires and they're still in the system as a patron, and it's fine.
Yeah, we have it's part of our protocol with our student workers is to expire their roles other than the patron role as soon as they leave. And at our college, student workers have both a student login and an employee login, and the employee login takes precedent when you're both in the system.
Good to know.
That's how, I don't know, it probably varies by college, but that's how we have it set up at our college, is that they get 2 different logins.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that is a discussion that I would love to have as a group, how we're dealing with work study students. And it sounds like, Amy, you have a pretty good practice, and perhaps even some documentation that could help other folks.
I will check. I'm not the one who does that, and I can check. The only issue we've ever had is at one of our branch campuses, we are co-located with a computer lab, and there's a lab tech there. And so we only have a staff person there like part of the time, but they have a lab tech there full time. And so the lab techs have accounts and they're usually student workers, that allow them to check out, just very limited. They can check out a book, basically. I don't even think they can check in a book, but they're trained to check out a book. And the only time we've ever run into a problem with a student worker doing anything shady, and I caught it before it happened, was one of the lab techs. I overheard him when I was up there telling other one, "Oh, you should ask this girl out. Hey, I can look up her phone number for you in the library system." And I went ballistic, because they also are supposed to have FERPA training and all kind. Like, you cannot use our system that way to find your friends' dates and phone numbers. Yeah. So, but the student workers that we hire, we haven't had that issue. We only have a handful of them.
Yeah. Wow.
But it is part of the protocol to give them permissions and take them away.
Mm-hmm. My chat just got goofy. Yeah, and
And the reason that we want individual logins, like we only use our generic Circ Desk login when the system goes down, is because we want to know who did what, who made an exception and checked out, 50 books to this person, or, who changed this setting. And so, all of that stuff is tracked if you have your individual login. So that's why we don't just have a generic login for our circulation students, because we want to know who did what occasionally.
Yeah. Well, and Will, you guys are waiting on student authentication because didn't you only just recently start doing emails for all students? Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, okay, yeah, so Peninsula's still kind of working on the whole like Peninsula email for Peninsula students. Um, so anyway, okay, great discussion. This has been really fascinating. And I really appreciate hearing the different practices and things, even though it wasn't really Eluna-ish. But it's 3 to 11. I'm sure some people have to bounce. So if you need to bounce, feel free. I'm gonna, I don't know, play around with some of the questions that have come up today that weren't sessions, but also I'd just like to keep sharing out about sessions next week. Still kind of keep this free flow-ish discussion, and then I'm kind of hoping I come back from vacation a little more refreshed and focused. But I'm just feeling a little stretched. So thank you for being good discussers, Amy. I hate saying good luck at the dentist, but like sending the healing calm vibes, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.